I recommend Sutera to not only growers and colleagues here in the Central Valley of California, but to other growers across the world. They offer top quality products to help you grow and sustain a healthy crop.
Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with Pacific Nut Producer Magazine, reporting to you here today with Brad Hanson from the UC Cooperative Extension, a weed science specialist. He really does a wonderful job, not in orchards and vineyards, right? For weed management, because growers prepare for the next season, as far as pre-emergent, post-emergent herbicides in the orchard. What are, some ways, because we've got some issues, I think, with drift sometimes and the residue that sometimes can get onto the crop. So can you tell us about that?
Sure. At this point of the year, I'm starting to think now about the spring treatments. And we don't have a lot of new herbicides in that arena, but the things that I've been working on in my program are mostly related to increasing the efficacy of those post-emergent herbicide programs on those glyphosate-resistant weeds as well as new weeds. And then we've been behind the scenes doing quite a bit of work addressing herbicide residues related to in almonds after harvest. And I think this is related to almonds that are being shaken onto soil that's been recently treated with a pre-harvest treatment of glyphosate or glufosinate. So that's one of the behind the scenes issues we're working on because it's really important for our international export markets.
Right, and they can really test in parts per billion on these things, so we really have to take this more seriously because we're able to detect those levels at such a micro level, right? So I'm thinking about, if growers are applying post-emergent herbicides, what's safe as far as that distance from harvest?
Yeah. So we did a project a few years ago looking at increasing the PHI, the pre-harvest intervals. And so the longer pre-harvest interval you have, obviously the longer you have for that herbicide to degrade, which should result in less potential exposure. But I think the bigger question here is designing year-round weed management programs so that you can have fewer of those post-emergent treatments or can use lower rates or have more narrow strips. So it's really important for the industry overall to reduce our reliance on those post-herbicides by decreasing the herbicide intensity in the orchards. Like anytime I hear of a grower who's doing 3 or 4 applications of Roundup or one of these products in the spring, I know we're potentially flirting with crop safety issues, with residue issues in those almonds, and a whole host of other environmental and economic challenges. So that's kind of one of the messages I've been pushing along for the last year or so, is trying to find ways to keep our weed management at acceptable levels while reducing the number and the amount of herbicides that we're using in the orchard.
Yeah, and prevention on anything is just really key. So those pre-emergent sprays, anything new and possibly more helpful that could maybe mitigate some of those post-emergent spray use. Anything new on that?
Yeah, we haven't had any dramatic changes in herbicide registrations in almonds. We've seen some movement in some of the other tree crops, but almonds have had, kind of the same suite of herbicides, and we're trying to figure out how to use them better. We're looking at some tank mixes and sequential programs and things like that, trying to tailor those programs to specific orchard weed problems. But it's not like we're going to see any completely new herbicides, at least not in the next few years.
We really appreciate your good work in weed management, especially with the retirement of some of the recent advisors. You're the man, so we really appreciate you. Read more about these things in Pacific Nut Producer Magazine. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.